Welcome to United Health Services Hospital Helipad Safety, Helicopter, and Aeromedical Transport Education Program. This program is designed for UHS staff and any affiliate that may be involved in helipad operations or a helicopter or fixed-wing medevac mission at UHS hospitals. During this program, we will provide participants with comprehensive information about the program at UHS Wilson Medical Center. At the conclusion of this video program, participants will be able to meet the following objectives and complete a brief post-assessment. The participant will be able to provide a summary of transfer criteria and safety considerations when using an aeromedical program at UHS. Define terms related to aeromedical operations and missions. Describe the location and discuss in detail UHS policies pertaining to helipad safety and air ambulance operations. List several examples of safe helipad operations. Describe the importance of and demonstrate the use of good body mechanics when loading or offloading patients safely. UHS is committed to operating all medevac helicopter-related operations in a safe and efficient manner. Only properly trained and credentialed staff with a direct or management role in the response to an aeromedical transport mission will function on or in the vicinity of a helipad. Aeromedical programs provide a mechanism for safe, effective, and rapid transfer of the sick and/or injured and provide high-quality, effective patient care with the ultimate goals of reducing mortality and improving clinical outcomes. UHS Hospitals works effectively with several aeromedical programs. We work closely with LifeNet of New York, a division of Air Methods, as the primary aeromedical program serving UHS. LifeNet can provide UHS with both helicopter and fixed-wing aircraft to accommodate a vast array of clinical situations requiring complex, specialized care, equipment, or transfer destinations. Their critical care flight team is highly skilled and trained in areas such as burns, cardiac, pediatrics, respiratory, and trauma, and also can assist with specialty team transports. These medevac medical teams are most often configured with a pilot, a registered nurse and paramedic, and practice under the direct guidance of physician medical directors licensed in the state of operation. Their fleet of aircraft are equipped with specialty medical interiors that support intensive, critical care medical transports in compliance with New York State Department of Health regulations, as well as standard safety technologies such as terrain avoidance warning systems, night vision imaging systems, satellite weather and tracking systems, searchlights, and wire strike protection systems to further enhance safety. Fixed-wing aircraft. Examples include airplanes or jets, which are capable of flight using wings that generate lift caused by the vehicle's forward airspeed and the shape of the wings. Typically, this type of aircraft accommodates larger medical equipment and has less restrictions with weight and weather in comparison to helicopters. Fixed-wing aircraft have a longer range than helicopters, a faster airspeed, and are generally less expensive. For the purposes of comparison, the LifeNet of New York fixed-wing aircraft based in Potsdam, New York, near the Canadian border, has a single pilot, a medical crew of a registered nurse and a paramedic, as well as the ability to transport the patient with one additional passenger. It has a payload of 3,500 pounds, a range of 1,560 nautical miles, and a cruising speed of 270 knots. That's 312 miles per hour. Rotor wing aircraft. An aircraft which uses rotating wings that provides both lift and thrust, allowing the aircraft to take off and land vertically, to hover, and to fly forward, backward, and laterally. Main rotor. The rotating wings on top of the aircraft. It is important to never approach the aircraft when either the main rotor or tail rotor is moving. Be sure to never hold anything above your head. Tail boom. The tubular structure connecting the fuselage to the tail rotor. Tail rotor. The rotating wing attached to tail boom. Tail rotors may be open or closed. Members of our ground crews will always stay away from them, even when off. and understand that they have the ability to produce winds of up to 70 miles an hour. The tail rotors may also suck in loose objects. Rotor wash. The wind turbulence created by the rotors during approach, landing, or takeoff. The downdraft of rotor wash can generate forces greater than 100 miles an hour, propelling debris in many directions and can cause significant injury and property damage. The main body of the aircraft containing the pilot, passenger, patient, equipment, etc. skids. The tubular structure on the bottom of the aircraft which supports the aircraft when it is on the ground. While you should not be afraid of the aircraft, there are many other parts of the aircraft which may pose a danger to you, your patient, and/or flight crew should you come in contact with or should they become damaged. Most helicopters have several protrusions off the fuselage. They may be antennas for communication devices, instrumentation sensors, strike avoidance, lightning, etc. These should only be touched by the flight crew. Helicopter doors may open or slide. They should be opened with care and closed carefully only by the flight team. They should never be shut hard or slam shut like you might close a car door. Lastly, many specialty materials are used to manufacture the aircraft. Some may look durable, but may bend, crack, or chip with minor pressure. Never stand, climb, or step on any part of the aircraft unless you have been invited to do so by a member of the flight crew. Hot offload. Term used by the flight crew in which the patient is removed from the aircraft while the engines are powering up and the rotors are moving. It is the policy of UHS that their employees acting as a member of the ground crew will not participate in the hot offloading of a patient. Any incoming aircraft crew requesting a hot offload will be advised of this policy so they may make an alternative plan to offload the aircraft. We do allow the flight crew to complete a hot offload of their patient without our assistance and transfer the patient to or from our stretcher. The main helipad at Wilson Regional Medical Center is located on the 5th floor of the Pachano building across the street from the main hospital building. The path of access for hospital staff would be using the 3rd floor bridge between the buildings to the South Pachano elevators and taking those elevators to the Pachano 5th floor South Penthouse. When exiting the elevator, you will find yourself in the South Penthouse. The South Penthouse contains required safety gear and equipment for a successful patient arrival or transfer. In this penthouse, you will find the following: 2 specially designed transport stretchers, which have no IV poles, no mattresses, no linens, or no pillows. Inner and outer ear protection, eye protection, gowns, gloves, reflective vests, and jackets for use by hospital staff. A battery-powered portable suction unit. A portable oxygen tank equipped with a quick connect regulator and related airways supplies. Communication equipment to speak directly to the aircraft if needed. There is also a phone and radio system for communications with the ED or another patient care unit, as well as the helicopter if needed. When you exit the South Penthouse to the east, you will be standing in the safe zone, just outside of the helipad. The actual flight deck or landing zone is fenced in. The North and South Penthouses have a dry chemical fire suppression system, which is to only be used by the responding fire department in the event of a fuel leak, smoke, or fire condition. In the event the primary helipad is unavailable due to maintenance or repairs, a temporary alternate or backup landing zone can be opened on the roof of the parking garage immediately to the south of the primary helipad. On a daily basis, both the UHS security and engineering departments complete and document a thorough inspection of the penthouses and the flight deck or landing zone. Throughout the day, security personnel monitor and inspect the flight deck for any garbage, debris, or changing conditions. Any vendor working on or in any area of the helipad will be accompanied by security or engineering staff. Flight operations. For all flights, the on-call UHS Flight Operations Manager and Emergency Department Charge Nurse must be notified of as soon as possible. The Emergency Department Charge Nurse or Flight Operations Manager will notify the hospital operator for specific overhead paging. The hospital operator is responsible for immediately notifying Program Manager for EMS Medevac Operations or On-Call Designee. Hospital Security. Johnson City Fire Department, Johnson City Police Department, Broome County 911 Center, and the Nursing Supervisor, in accordance with their standing operating procedure. When there is an inbound helicopter coming to Wilson Regional Medical Center, an overhead page will occur when helicopter is confirmed to have an ETA of 15 minutes or less. In addition to activating various texting and page notifications, the overhead emergency tone will be activated 3 times, followed by the specific announcement. There are 3 distinct paging protocols or sequences. For an inbound mission, the following page will be used.
Medical alert. Operation Life Flight is now in effect. Inbound mission to the emergency room. ETA 11 minutes. Medical alert. Operation Life Flight is now in effect. Inbound mission to the emergency room. ETA 11 minutes.
This page is used when the helicopter ETA is 15 minutes or less. This page requires the response of the full landing zone team, which includes management, the nursing supervisor or nurse manager, security, cardiopulmonary, and at least 1 helipad certified registered nurse and nursing assistant from the receiving unit. When there is an outbound helicopter coming to Wilson Regional Medical Center to transfer a patient, an overhead page will occur when helicopter is 15 minutes or less. Here is what the announcement will sound like. Operation Life Flight is now in effect. Outbound mission from CCU, ETA 7 minutes. This page requires cardiopulmonary and ED staff to respond only at the specific request of the sending hospital unit. The certified staff from the receiving clinical unit must meet the inbound helicopter and accompany the flight crew and patient to the receiving unit. Occasionally, training missions occur at the facility. This would sound like: Operation Life Flight is now in effect. ETA 10 minutes, training mission. No emergency department staff, supervisor, or cardiopulmonary staff response is necessary for this type of page. However, hospital administrative staff and security will be present and manage these flights. Following the departure of the helicopter from the Wilson Rooftop Helipad, the operator will be notified by security that Operation Life Flight all clear. This will be announced by the operator to the security and emergency department via the radios. Please note, this does not include an emergency tone over the hospital paging system, and the sequence does not go out over pagers or as a text message. This is not announced overhead. Patients that are being flown to Wilson Medical Center may or may not be arriving for care by the trauma team. It is important to note that helicopter paging sequences are separate and distinct from trauma team activation. Trauma team activation will be paged independently of life flight pages in accordance with their policies. Upon notification of an incoming helicopter, the security staff will be notified as soon as possible to allow them to manually close the rooftop drainage valve system, position ready the fire suppression system, turn on helipad lights, locator beacon, verify fan lids are safely secured, perform an additional safety inspection of the flight deck, and secure the perimeter of the flight deck. For incoming patient transfers, the receiving unit should send properly credentialed clinical staff to the South Penthouse to prepare for the helicopter arrival. For outgoing transfers, patients should be appropriately prepared and ready to meet the helicopter flight team on the transferring clinical unit. A bed-to-bed transfer will occur on the inpatient unit between UHS clinical staff and the flight team. This will ensure a safe and orderly transfer of patient care. Once in the South Penthouse or outside the safe zone, there are a few key safety practices which must be strictly adhered to. By federal law, the pilot is ultimately in charge of the aircraft and responsible for flight operations. There is no radio communications to the aircraft during landing or takeoff except for a major emergency condition. During landing or takeoff, all ground personnel must remain outside of the fenced-in flight deck. The flight crew will use hand signals to guide the UHS ground crew as needed once the helicopter rotors are shut down. There is no smoking, open flames, lasers, or flash photography allowed in the penthouse, the landing zone, within the safe zone, or on any flight deck at any time. UHS staff will ensure all clothing, badges, stethoscopes, hats, jackets, etc. are secure at all times. Loose articles can be dangerous. All personnel within the penthouse are required to use inner ear protection. All personnel outside of the penthouse must wear reflective apparel and utilize inner and outer ear and eye protection on at all times on the flight deck or landing zone. Staff should appropriately dress for all weather conditions, including rain, cold, snow, and ice. Never raise your hands or place anything above your head. Keep IVs on a stretcher next to the patient until you are off the flight deck. Depending on the type of helicopter, patients may be loaded and unloaded from the side of the helicopter or through rear doors, known as clamshell doors. The UHS ground crew will take direction from the flight crew at all times regarding the safe and proper techniques for loading or unloading of patients. For all patient moves into or out of the helicopter, we will have a minimum of 6 staff members involved with the patient move. Staff members will have one hand on the wheeled stretcher and the other hand on the patient or device the patient is secured to during the actual move. It is important to realize that many patients may arrive directly from a crash scene or perhaps a smaller local hospital. They may be intubated. They may not have their C-spine cleared or may have a variety of other injuries. Never let the condition or physical presentation of your patient distract you from a safe helicopter operation. For outgoing transfers, the patient's properly credentialed primary nurse will accompany the patient and flight team to the helipad and will remain with the patient until helicopter has departed our rooftop and the aircraft is maintaining altitude. We still have the responsibility for patient care until the flight team leaves our premises, as defined by COBRA and EMTALA. When loading or offloading the patient, the use of good body and lift mechanics is essential for the wellness of both the ground crew and flight crew. Each helicopter layout may provide a unique challenge for the staff member moving the patient. Be aware and take precautions to avoid pinch injuries. The challenge could be further complicated by the patient's condition, what equipment may be required for continuing their care, or other variables such as the need for ventilation, airway management, or ongoing spinal motion restriction. Special care should be taken when you are working on the helipad, as there may be water, rain, snow, wind, and ice. Take your time and use extreme caution to avoid slips and falls. Plan your task. Ensure that the patient is manageable or get more assistance. Keep the patient close to your body. Maintain the natural S-shaped curve of the spine or lordosis and tighten your core muscles as you lift. Do not hold your breath. Exhale as you lift the patient. At least 3 UHS staff or crew members will accompany every patient transfer. One of the personnel at the patient's head should be a respiratory therapist assigned to monitor and, if required, manage the patient's ventilation and airway. All patient moves shall be made at the direction of the flight team and or the nurse or respiratory therapist at the patient's head. The transfer process and criteria. If you are contemplating the use of an Aeromedical service, please call the Wilson Medical Center operator using the stat line number 763-6111. That's 763-6111 in the planning phase at the earliest possible moment, and have the Flight Operations On-Call Manager stat paged. The Flight Operations On-Call Manager or designee will help you coordinate flight planning and arrangements, as well as assist in obtaining any of the required administrative approvals. It is essential that the Flight Operations On-Call Manager be involved to prevent a situation where more than a single aircraft is inbound for our single aircraft helipad. It is also important that you are prepared to provide an actual patient weight and transfer details when you call. Depending on your position at UHS, you may be directly or indirectly involved in the transfer process. Be sure to review the following UHS administrative manual policies and procedures, which can be found in your department or on the UHS intranet. Number 2.75, Helipad Safety Operations. Number 5.70, Air Ambulance Patient Transfers. Number 5.74, Patient Transfers Out. These policies are written with the intent to provide guidance in the decision-making process, but it is ultimately the decision of the transferring physician as to the mode of transportation after consideration of the following. Are the risks and costs of aeromedical transport necessary to provide optimal, efficient, and/or quality patient care? Does a life-threatening or potentially disabling medical or surgical emergency exist? Does a written physician order exist that documents the order for use of an air ambulance, medical helicopter, or medical fixed-wing aircraft? Example, jet, turboprop. Have all of the time factors, weather, and potential delays been considered in deciding to utilize an air ambulance efficiently and appropriately? If there is a possibility that the patient could seize or become combative, have appropriate covering orders been written for sedation? Have specific physician orders been written that detail the type of staff and license certification required to accompany this patient, as well as IVs, medications, interventions in progress, and/or any anticipated in-flight emergencies, provisions for physician medical command during flight? Is the patient condition stable, or are there any conditions that could develop or worsen as a result of exposure to air ambulance transport? The patient's weight versus desired mode of transport. Current and forecasted weather conditions. Any potential safety concerns for the flight crew? Is the patient suicidal, homicidal, combative, restrained, or have an altered level of consciousness? If we are flying newborns or pediatric patients, special planning and preparation is required, as the use of a newborn or pediatric pod will likely be used by the flight crew. Lastly, a complete patient transfer, including report to or from the flight crew, is required with each patient interaction. It is important to note that this report may often occur on a helipad or during the movement from the helipad to the inpatient unit. UHF staff members are required to document this report and will share this report with other appropriate care providers on the receiving unit who are directly involved in the care of the patient. We hope that you found this program to be enjoyable, informative, and valuable to your position as a trained member of our UHS Landing Zone team. Should you have any questions, we urge you to reach out to the facilitator of this program, your direct supervisor, or the program manager.